The original Masters of the Universe toy line was one of the most popular of the 1980s, and it was a huge success for Mattel. With over 70 action figures and a slew of creatures, vehicles, and playsets, all released between 1982 and 87, He-Man fans in the US had a large selection of imaginative toys to play with and collect. But did you know that outside of the US, there were fully licensed Masters of the Universe action figures that were distributed by different companies, sometimes resulting in very different looking action figures? Today on Toysplosion, we're going to take a look at some of the more unique figure releases, specifically from the toy company Top Toys. The original Masters of the Universe line was released in Argentina by toy company Top Toys under full license from Mattel. The line was a bit smaller than what we got here in the US, with only 40 figures and only a few vehicles, creatures, and playsets seeing release. But of what was released, there are some notable figure variations that have become highly collectible today. We're going to take a look at a few of those, but first, we're going to learn a little bit more about Top Toys. To help us with this, I'm going to throw it over to my good friend and fellow toy fan Rodrigo, also known as the Mad Hunter.
Hey, ¿qué pasa, amigos? I'm Mad Hunter from Mexico City. Let's talk about some Modu Top Toys. In the 80s, this brand was one of the most important toy producers in Argentina. They got very important licenses such as Star Wars, Barbie, and of course, Masters of the Universe. Without intention, they created some of the most desired variants among collectors these days. The main reason was the scarcity of materials at that period in Argentina. We need to remember that several countries produced the Modu toy line: Mexico, Spain, Argentina, and many others. But I'm sure that Top Toys created the most crazy variants. In my opinion, the Argentinian crown jewels are the Black Blood Mosquitor, Stratos with pink wings, and the magnificent Kobra Camuflado. This is the regular version of Mosquitor, and this one over here is the Black Blood Mosquitor made by Top Toys. Look at Stratos produced in Taiwan, and this is his Argentinian brother. Kobra Can regular version, and here is the amazing Camuflado. I love the claws and the chest symbol. We can talk all day long about crazy Top Toys variants, Jitsu with Fistos hand, Christmas Modulock as I like to call it, but that's another story. Hasta la vista, amigos. Back to you then.
Thanks, Rodrigo! So now that we've learned a bit more about the cool figures released by Top Toys, let's take a closer look at some of the more sought-after variants. Modulock was introduced in 1985 as the Evil Horde's Beast of 1,000 Bodies. He was notable for being very different from most other Masters of the Universe figures in that he had a modular body that could be taken apart and rebuilt however you wanted. He included 24 interchangeable parts and came packaged in a fully enclosed box instead of the usual blister card. Top Toys released their version of Modulock in 1987. He was instantly different from the US release because instead of coming packaged inside of a box, this version came on the standard figure blister card. Since the figure didn't actually have a blister card on his US release, the Top Toys version was usually found in another figure's card back with a yellow sticker that had Modulock's name on it. The figure is quite different outside of the box too. While the usual Modulock released in the US included 24 interchangeable pieces, the Top Toys version only had 18. In addition, 2 of the legs and 2 of the arms were molded in a bright green plastic. All of the red pieces are a bright red with no extra paint details. These colors, specifically that green, give Modulock a drastically different look to the more common release found in the United States. The original Road Ripper was released in 1984 in the US. It's known for its bright green color and ability to propel into battle with the use of an included ripcord. In 1986, the popular heroic vehicle got a release from Top Toys. While the majority of the Road Rippers released looked exactly like the US release, a small portion of them were made of a blue plastic instead of the usual green. This blue Road Ripper is exactly the same otherwise. Same sculpt, same stickers, same ripcord propelling action feature. The only difference is that it was molded in blue plastic. So is a slight color change enough to warrant collecting this piece? Well, it seems so, as this is one of the rarest and most collectible Masters of the Universe pieces out there. Mosquitor was released in 1987. He includes one of my personal favorite action features in the entire line. His chest has a window, allowing you to see bright red, real liquid in his chest cavity, made to resemble the blood that he has sucked from his victims. By pumping the button on his back, the red blood would flow through his chest. Mosquitor showed up in the Top Toys line in 1990, and like the other toys we're discussing today, he certainly stands out from the regular US release. This version practically looks unpainted, with no paint details on the figure's boots or belt. Some versions of this figure came packaged with a Man-E-Faces gun instead of the signature purple laser. Other versions had no weapon at all. But the biggest difference can be found in the chest cavity. Instead of that bright red liquid blood, we have a runny black liquid instead. The button on his back also doesn't appear to do anything, but it's unclear if these are mostly just broken now, or if the figure never actually featured the pumping mechanism. There's also been some debate over if the liquid was actually black when the figure was first released, or if the red pigment just turned black over time. However, in a recent interview with Mad Hunter, Top Toys owners Hector and Dario confirmed that there were two versions, and the black blood variation is actually the second release, in which they asked Mattel to supply them with a darker liquid for the production in order to distinguish the release from the first one. The original Cobra Khan was released in the US in 1984. He was first presented as one of Skeletor's evil warriors, and was later retconned into being a henchman of the Snake Men once that faction was introduced. In 1987, Top Toys released Cobra Khan Camuflado, or Camo Khan, as he became known amongst fans. This seems to be more than just a simple variation of an existing character. It's almost as if Top Toys created an all-new character and gave him his own name. None of the other color variations of figures in the Top Toys line had their own unique name like this. Camo Khan even has a few variations of his own. Some of them come with the standard Skeletor arms just like the US release. But the more common, and certainly the more interesting, replace those with Buzz-Off's arms with shiny golden claws. The boots were also painted a shiny gold to match. The body itself is a darker green with a camouflage pattern painted on. And emblazoned on his chest is the bright green logo of the Snake Men, making Camo Khan a more solid member of the faction than the original Cobra Khan was. Sometimes this figure came packaged with Clawful's green club. Sometimes it was packaged with a brown version of Clawful's club, and sometimes it came with Buzz-Off's axe. It's easy to see why this figure is so sought after. With a very different look than his US counterpart that includes some parts swapping, a wild new paint deco, and even a completely new name, Camo Khan is practically like a brand new character in the line that never saw release in the United States. These are some of the noteworthy examples of figures released outside of the United States whose differences are drastic enough to warrant a desire to be collected by toy collectors. Unfortunately, the production numbers were likely much lower than a typical US release, which pushes them into the realm of being rare and highly sought after. Personally, I didn't even know that these existed until I was an adult collector and searching for information on the internet about my favorite childhood toy line. I'm sure that's actually the story with most of you out there. Or maybe you're finding out about these for the first time by watching this episode. In which case, good luck tracking these down. You're definitely going to need it. I haven't even touched on the Leo Toys figures from India. Hey, thank you guys so much for joining me for another episode of Toysplosion. This is a topic that I have always personally found very interesting, and I've wanted to cover it here on this channel for quite some time, so I hope I did the topic justice and maybe you guys learned something new today. I have to give a massive shout out to my friend Mad Hunter for helping me out by not only supplying the footage for this, but also kind of running everything over and making sure my information was accurate. He has a channel that you really need to check out if you want to learn more about this type of thing. Since he's based out of Mexico, he gets firsthand looks at a lot of these very cool foreign releases. His channel is all in Spanish, but it's English subtitled, so definitely worth checking out. I also have to give a very special thanks to my friends Brock and Justice Curry, because without these two, I wouldn't have even had these rare figures to show you in today's video. So this whole video came together because of the awesome generosity of the Masters of the Universe toy collecting community. I could not have done it without you guys. Thank you so much. Thanks again for joining me, guys. I really appreciate you being here. Don't forget to check out the first episode if you haven't already watched it, and stay tuned. More Toysplosion is on the way. Until next time, my friends.